Okay, so welcome, everybody. Today, in our second in the series of Materia Medica on the Hub, quick and dirty MatMed, we are in the series about the aquas. And we're talking about all those remedies that have water of some sort as a source. So today we are talking about Sanicula. Sanicula aqua. And I'm going to talk about it in general, but we're going to start with 3 cases. And like a lot of Materia Medica, if you haven't seen it out in the wild, alive, it can be kind of hard to grab it off the page and match it to somebody. So I'm just going to share 3 cases. And, if these were your cases, these are just scenarios that you can think of in your mind. Oh, yeah, I might want to remember that remedy. And then we're going to talk about why and what brings it to mind and some of the science about it that we know now that's really interesting. We're going to start with the case. This is a woman with severe endometriosis. And she takes a lot of pain meds during her menstrual flow, which is every 23 to 24 days. Her periods last 6 to 8 days. During those days, if she is not continually on ibuprofen, she has pain that's 7, 8, 9 out of 10. And it is a gripping pain all around her gut. And she becomes incredibly constipated during that period of time. She does not pass any stool, none, 0, from the time she begins her flow until a day or 2 after her flow. So she'll have 7 to 10 days where there's nothing passed. So that's not great. She also has pain at ovulation. So it is a nondescript lower abdomen crampy. She's not very good at describing her symptoms. And the more you ask and try to identify, the more irritable she gets. And she's not really, she wants you to solve the problem, but she's not interested in being nice or helpful. And sometimes that happens when people are just in so much pain that it's difficult for them to even be constructive in the homeopathic engagement. So the first time that we talk, she is actually in one of her pain cycles at ovulation, and she's just crabby, and she's not really answering my questions very well. And finally says, I can't do this, and hangs up. And the next day she calls and leaves a message saying, I'm sorry, it's just too much. Can we talk sometime, when this is not going on? So we follow up again a few days later and we talk. She tells me that the constipation was like this. She would go for days and days and days without passing stool, even as a young child. It's been a lifelong thing. It got worse with the endometriosis. She has been given probably 50 or 60 remedies by at least 10 different homeopaths. She's been through acupuncture. She's been through dietary counseling. She's been through everything. And she hasn't gotten really any relief, and she's very, very cranky. So the remedy that I chose to give her was chamomilla, and chamomilla palliates. She absolutely gets relief, but she has to keep taking it very, very frequently at higher and higher potencies. She gets to where she's having no menstrual pain during her period and during ovulation after 3 or 4 months. But she's taking a huge amount of chamomilla, and overall, she's not any nicer a person. It has not made any change within her. So The remedy that was given that made such a massive change was actually an inspiration that was a combination of Massimo Mangialavore's guidance and Roger Morrison. Roger Morrison teaches that chamomilla is the acute of Sanicula as a chronic. And Massimo Mangialavore teaches that Sanicula is a remedy that is very applicable in endometriosis, particularly when there is a lot of pain felt at ovulation. So we moved from chamomilla to Sanicula, and actually she did some alternation between the two, and it completely resolved. Okay, second case. This is a case of an elder with marasmus. This is somebody who's in his early 80s, and he is losing body weight and body mass. And he's eating like 3,000 calories a day, these really rich shakes, lots of healthy fats, lots and lots of calories. He works out at the gym, and he's still losing body mass and weight. And he's doing everything that he can to keep his weight up. He's been given, again, a whole bunch of different remedies. And when we talk, he says that he's been through all kinds of checks on his thyroid, and there's no problem with his thyroid. Everything looks absolutely normal. And so he can't account his weight loss to that. And I asked him, when did the weight loss start? And it started after he was traveling, he got a digestive infection, and his stool smelled like rotting fish. And that went on for several weeks. And that was 3 years ago. And since then, he's been struggling with his weight. So the remedy that he was given was Sanicula, which completely resolved the issue. He was clearer in his mind. His energy was better. The ongoing issues that he had off and on with constipation were gone. The weight loss was gone. He was in all ways better. Third case, child who has been weaned by the mom. Baby was not ready to wean, and baby is so not happy. This is somebody who the mom was in a very difficult, traumatic circumstance, and she just couldn't do it anymore. And so she was doing her very best just to take care of the baby, and didn't have great support around her, and said, I got to quit nursing. And the child went into this depression. Depressed babies are kind of a scary thing. And the remedy that completely resolved it is Sanicula. Now, this is from a training from Patricia Hatherley, who has a very good understanding of Sanicula as it applies to children. And Roger Morrison says it's a big polycrest for children. So Patricia Hatherley says it is particularly applicable after weaning. And so this child was given a high potency, a 10M of Sanicula, and it brought the depression out. The child accepted a bottle. The child was happier. You know, it was still a stressful situation, but the intensity that had changed when the mom stopped breastfeeding was all gone and resolved. Okay. So those are 3 clear examples. And I just want to say it's a remedy to think of with any kind of failure to thrive, any kind of chronic fatigue, any kind of arthritis, any kind of difficulty where there is some kind of fishy odor. Some kind of fishy odor. So let's talk about that. Okay. Let's talk about what Sanicula is, what it's from. Sanicula is made from a healing mineral spring. And this mineral spring was upwelling it was going through all of these structures in the ground and then coming up into this area where there were these pools. It was an extremely popular place in Ottowa, Illinois, where people would go for their holidays. And there were parks there where people could pitch a tent and then they could go take the healing waters. It doesn't exist there anymore. They built a dam. The area's been paved over. Now there's a big park there. And so we don't have any more of the original Sanicula source. We only have the potentized remedy. But people used to go there to take the waters for their digestion, for their arthritis, for their bee stings, for whatever. There was a guy who moved there in 1890 who was a doctor. And he and his family were new to town, and they bought a 5-gallon container of the Sanicula healing water that was called the Taste of Ottowa, because it was there in Ottowa, Illinois. And they began to take a dose of this every day. All the members of the family got sick. They developed terrible constipation, bad acne, mouth ulcers, and started smelling like rotten fish, all of them. And the symptoms continued for 5 years after they stopped. When a homeopath heard about that, they thought, oh, we should potentize this. So the remedy is made from the water from the spring, which has been dried and triturated. Now, for those of you who were here with me last time, when we talked about Aqua Marina, we talked about how the research that René Quinton had done about Aqua Marina was one that showed that the active alive water was much more beneficial than the dried reduction as a powder. But he hadn't triturated it. He hadn't potentized it. So in this case, it's the water from the spring that's been dried and the residue has been triturated. And it's about 30% or 40% natrum mur. It's just a lot of salt. And then it's got a lot of calcareum mur and mag mur, calc carb, calc sulf, kali sulf, nat carb, nat brome, ferrum carb, natrum iodatum, silica, alumina. That's what's in it in descending order. And it also has traces of lithium carb and nat phos and borax. So it's sort of like, you know, the mineral cookbook remedy that's got all this stuff in it. It's a very, very rich mineral complex. Okay, so who remembers what the keynotes from Sanicula are when you were in school studying? Anybody remember? What are the keys of Sanicula? The things that if somebody woke you up at 3 a.m. and said, tell me about Sanicula, you'd remember to say. Smelly feet. Yes, good. Stinky feet, skin disorders. Anything else? Bad acne, back acne. Yep. Symptoms continually changing. Yes, thank you. And we've got really, really fishy odor. Any discharge can have a fishy odor. Urine, mouth, smell, vaginal fluids, semen, which I tell you what, that would put me off. You know, we got to be really careful about the way that we discuss with our clients, because some of them are extremely sensitive about this. So does anybody know the organic compound that generates that fishy odor? Anybody know what that is? I'll give you a hint. It's used as an odorant for natural gas. Anybody know what that substance is? It's called trimethylamine. I'm going to put it here in the chat for you. This is the compound that is responsible for the fishy odor. There was some research done with for a bunch of women with bacterial vaginosis who had a fishy odor. And they tested the vaginal fluid. And then there were also women who had various kinds of vaginitis that did not have a fishy odor. And they looked to see what's different. And the presence of this organic compound, trimethylamine, was the big red flag. This is actually a gut bacteria metabolite. It's an organic compound that is derived from ammonia. It's actually been used industrially since like the 1870s. It was used as an agent in the dye industry. It moves from the gut when things are being broken down into the bloodstream, and then it's metabolized in the liver. And if it builds up in your body, it increases your blood pressure. It increases your kidney stress, and if there's enough of it, you will have kidney damage with fibrosis of the tubules. It builds up in the urine. In quantity, it'll cause all kinds of stomach aches, tearing eyes, graying and aging of the skin. As a substance, it's a clear gas or liquid. It's actually added to natural gas to give that stinky smell so that you know when there's a gas leak. Now, it's categorized as a hazardous substance because it's flammable. And there is a genetic condition called trimethylaminuria, or fish odor syndrome, which would be like the poster child for Sanicula. It's a genetic condition, but both parents have to have a copy of the gene. It only comes up when both parents have it. And for the children, it can be present at birth, but it usually comes on at puberty. And the person's breath and sweat and urine and all bodily fluids have this fishy odor that's worse during menses, worse with perspiration. And for these people with this genetic issue, the body is not able to convert this metabolite, the trimethylamine, and break it down into other things. So when we put all of that together, I want you to keep in mind the presence of trimethylamine in any bodily fluid is going to cause this fishy odor, which is what I see the most often in my practice as a doorway into Sanicula. When a client has chronic fatigue and she complains of a fishy odor, I'm thinking about Sanicula. When a client has migraines and a fishy odor to her, or a fishy taste in her mouth, I'm thinking about Sanicula. When a client has bad arthritis pain and back pain and has sweat that smells fishy, I'm thinking about Sanicula. So there aren't that, I mean, we can think about Medorrhinum. There are certainly other things that have a fishy smell. But when you get the combination of some sort of immune system depletion or metabolic weakness, some sort of failure to thrive, chronic fatigue, marasmus, some kind of malabsorption issue that seems like it would call for a mineral polycrest kind of thing, this is your guy. Now, one of the other, let's talk about where you might be seeing it, but giving close remedies that aren't quite the same. Another doorway into using this remedy is when you are seeing a picture that looks like a kali. There are issues with the heart and the kidney. There is a rigidity in the structure and persona of that person. And so you're giving them kali carb. maybe kali-sulf, maybe kali-phos if they're in a really depleted state, and you're just getting a little bit of help. Think about when there is a pairing of heart and kidney. Remember, this is what happens when you get an excess buildup of this organic compound that causes the fishy odor. So when somebody comes in and they've got cardiovascular disease and kidney weakness and they have fishy odor anywhere, this should be a no-brainer. It doesn't matter what their major complaint is. When somebody has another doorway in is when someone has all the immune limitation stuff, that cold tendency to take, and they've been given silica and they've been given calc carb, they've been given serenum and a lot of things that would tend in that direction. And they haven't really gotten there. Think about Sanicula, which contains so many of those minerals. So what's another doorway in? It's when you have a kind of crabby, discontent child who craves sweets and smoked food, ham and bacon and pizza, head sweats in the sleep, complaining all the time, and you've given calc-phos and a couple of other calcareas, and you're not getting anywhere. Think about Sanicula. Another doorway into the case is a woman who has had recurrent bacterial vaginosis. And guys, we have to think of the intimate couple here, because what'll happen is that every time the gal and her husband get together, she ends up with another round of BV. And, for some couples, it's just continuous. For a lot of couples, especially as they get older or when they've got 2 or 3 small children at home, they maybe get together in an intimate way a couple times a year. When grandma has the kids, that's their only chance. And right after that, the woman will have another round of some kind of vaginitis, and then she'll go back into bacterial vaginosis. In this case, you can give her the Sanicula, but actually he needs it as well. And so think about working with the intimate couple there. Okay, so we've talked about the doorway in through bacterial vaginosis, the doorway in through cranky kids that look like calc-phos, or malabsorption things that look like silica, or chronic fatigue or arthritis or backache or any other things that have a fishy odor. One of the other ways to think about this remedy is that you have given chamomilla in some way that has palliated, like the endometriosis case that I mentioned at the beginning. And it seems like they're really a lot better, but it just doesn't hold. So these are all of the consistent things that I've found that get me to Sanicula. Unlike many of the other remedies that we've talked about, it works in every potency from low to high, high, high. And I tend to give it in a 12C daily or a couple of times daily for women who are dealing with vaginitis with a fishy odor or bacterial vaginosis. I tend to use it in quite high potency with children or with elders who are having a hard time with constipation, a 1M, 3 doses over 24 hours. And I might have them repeat that 1M weekly for 4 or 5 weeks. Okay, these are all the things that have helped me. When I just read all the symptoms, it's kind of hard. But when I think about this circle that has the points on the outside of the calc-phos and the fishy and the silica and the immune compromise and the malabsorption and the endometriosis that's worse at ovulation and all these things, it helps me to say, oh, we are in the land of Sanicula. It is a very effective alternation with lac humanum for moms who are very depleted as they're coming out of nursing and early parenting. It also is a wonderful tonic for women who are depleted by excess menstrual flow during perimenopause. So that's what I got for you. Do you feel like, based on what we've talked about today, you have an idea of how you could use this? Thanks, Kelly. If you're interested in a little bit more about this, and I think there are a few cases in there, look at the bacterial vaginosis class. It has some information. And, go read Materia Medica, and based on this, put some notes. One of the books that I have that I like to write notes in is Roger Morrison's Desktop Guide. I just scribbled, because these pages have lots of white space on them. I tend to write a lot of my notes right in here, because if you write them off on a piece of paper or in a file on your computer, how easy is it going to be to grab them? And so if you put them in here, Massimo says endometriosis with ovarian pain, or consider in elders with chronic constipation, or blah, 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 blah. They're right there where you can use it. Oh, you did that. Great, Namita. All right. So, guys, that's it. Any questions before we sign off? Okay. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Take care. Bye-bye.